Welcome back to Antique Coins Information. Today we're diving into the fascinating world of U.S. coin collecting as we uncover the top 5 most valuable and rare Washington quarters, coins so precious that collectors would pay millions of dollars for them. From stunning minting errors to iconic historical strikes, these treasured pieces are the holy grail for numismatists everywhere. Stay tuned as we reveal each of these extraordinary quarters and the stories behind their staggering values. Today we are diving deep into one such coin, the United States of America 1966 no-mint mark Washington quarter dollar, a coin that has surprised collectors, historians, and everyday people alike with its true worth and hidden potential. The Washington quarter is one of the most recognizable coins ever produced in the United States. Featuring the dignified profile of George Washington on the front, it symbolizes leadership, resilience, and the foundation of a nation. By the time the 1966 quarter was released, this design had already become a familiar companion to Americans across the country. Yet the era in which this coin was minted was anything but ordinary. The mid-1960s were a time of great change, not just socially and politically, but also within the United States Mint itself. To understand why the 1966 no-mint mark Washington quarter is so special, we must step back into history. The United States was experiencing a severe coin shortage. Rising silver prices had pushed the intrinsic value of silver coins close to, and sometimes beyond, their face value. People began hoarding coins, pulling them out of circulation, and melting them down. In response, the government made a dramatic decision that would forever change American coinage. This decision was the removal of silver from circulating quarters. Prior to this era, Washington quarters were composed largely of silver, giving them both beauty and intrinsic value. But beginning in the mid-1960s, quarters were produced using a copper and nickel-clad composition instead. The 1966 quarter belongs to this exact moment of transformation, a bridge between two eras of American money. One of the most intriguing aspects of the 1966 Washington quarter is the absence of a mint mark. During this period, the United States Mint deliberately removed mint marks from coins. This was done as an effort to discourage collectors from hoarding newly released coins. Officials believed that if coins could not be traced back to a specific mint, collectors would be less likely to pull them from circulation. As a result, quarters from this year were struck without any mint identification, making the no-mint mark feature not a mistake, but a purposeful historical choice. Despite being produced in large numbers, not all 1966 quarters are equal. Most examples are worn, scratched, and heavily circulated. They have lived long lives in everyday transactions, jingling in pockets and sliding across counters. These common pieces are worth only their face value. However, a very small number of 1966 no-mint mark Washington quarters stand apart from the rest. What elevates certain examples into the realm of serious value is condition. Coin grading is an art and a science. Professional grading services examine every detail of a coin, from the sharpness of Washington's hair to the clarity of the eagle's feathers on the reverse. They look for surface marks, luster, strike quality, and overall preservation. Coins that survive decades without wear are extremely rare, especially for years when mint sets were limited or experimental. The 1966 quarter was not widely distributed in official mint sets as earlier years had been. Instead, the mint issued special sets that were not intended to be collected in the traditional sense. This means that pristine examples are far scarcer than one might expect. When a 1966 no-mint mark quarter is discovered in exceptionally high grade, it instantly becomes an object of fascination among collectors. Another layer of intrigue comes from subtle variations and striking quality. During the rush to produce enough coins to ease the shortage, quality control sometimes suffered. Dies wore out quickly, strikes varied, and minor anomalies occurred. While most of these variations are not valuable, a perfectly struck example from this chaotic period is a true standout. Collectors prize these coins because they represent excellence achieved under pressure. The story of the Washington quarter itself adds emotional weight to the coin. The portrait was originally introduced to honor the bicentennial of George Washington's birth. What began as a commemorative design became a permanent fixture of American coinage. Holding a quarter from the 1960s connects you directly to that legacy, to the ideals Washington represented, and to a nation navigating change. For many collectors, the appeal of the 1966 no-mint mark quarter lies not just in money, but in mystery. It is the thrill of searching through old change, inherited collections, or forgotten jars, hoping to uncover something extraordinary. It reminds us that history is often hiding in plain sight, disguised as something ordinary. The coin also represents a lesson in patience and preservation. Countless quarters from this year were spent without a second thought. Only a handful were carefully saved, protected from wear, and preserved in near-perfect condition. Those few survivors now tell a very different story, one of foresight and quiet reward. In the world of numismatics, value is driven by a combination of rarity, demand, and condition. The 1966 no-mint mark Washington quarter checks all the right boxes when found in top grade. Its historical context, limited pristine survivors, and strong collector interest elevate it far beyond what most people would ever expect from a clad quarter. What makes this coin especially fascinating is that it challenges assumptions. People often believe that only very old coins or precious metal coins can be valuable. This quarter proves otherwise. It comes from a modern era, contains no silver, and yet commands extraordinary attention when it meets the highest standards of preservation. Collectors who specialize in Washington quarters consider top-grade examples from transitional years like this to be cornerstones of a serious collection. Auction results have shown just how competitive bidding can become when one of these rare gems appears on the market. Each sale reinforces the coin's reputation and cements its place in American numismatic history. For everyday viewers, this story carries an exciting message. That spare change sitting in a drawer or jar might deserve a closer look. While most coins will be ordinary, the possibility that something remarkable could be hiding among them adds a sense of adventure to the hobby. Coin collecting is not just about wealth, but about discovery, history, and connection. The 1966 no-mint mark Washington quarter stands as a symbol of transition, resilience, and hidden potential. It reflects a nation adapting to economic pressures, a mint responding to crisis, and a design that continued to inspire trust and familiarity. It also reminds us that value is not always obvious at first glance. As we reach the end of this journey, remember that the true magic of coin collecting lies in stories like this. A simple quarter, overlooked for decades, transformed into a treasure through rarity, condition, and history. And when one of these exceptional examples reaches the highest levels of preservation, its value has been recorded at an astonishing amount, reaching as high as $23,853. Imagine reaching into your pocket, feeling the familiar weight of loose change, and pulling out a quarter you've seen 1,000 times before. At first glance, it looks ordinary, unremarkable, almost invisible in a world that rushes past small details. But what if that single coin carries a quiet story of American history, hidden value, and a moment in time when the United States was changing faster than ever before? Today's journey is all about the 1967 Washington quarter dollar with no mint mark, a coin that may seem common, yet holds a fascinating place in American numismatics and in the hearts of collectors. The year 1967 was unlike many others in American history. The nation was deep into the cultural and political shifts of the 1960s. Music, civil rights, space exploration, and global tensions all shaped daily life. While these events captured headlines, the United States Mint was dealing with its own challenge. Coin shortages had become a serious issue. People were hoarding silver coins, melting them for their metal value, and pulling them out of circulation. This created a crisis that affected everyday commerce. In response, the Mint made decisions that would forever change American coinage. By 1965, silver was removed from quarters, dimes, and half dollars, replaced with a copper-nickel clad composition. The Washington quarter of 1967 belonged squarely to this transition era. It was struck during a time when the Mint wanted coins to flow freely again, without people setting them aside for their silver content. To discourage collecting and hoarding, the Mint took a very unusual step. For several years, including 1967, coins were produced without mint marks at all, regardless of where they were made. That is why the 1967 Washington quarter carries no mint mark. It does not mean it was made at only one location. Instead, it could have been struck at either the Philadelphia or Denver facilities, both operating under a unified system with no identifying letter. This alone makes the coin interesting, as it represents a rare moment when the mint deliberately erased a detail collectors had long relied on. The design of the 1967 Washington quarter remains faithful to the classic image introduced in 1932. On the front, you see the left-facing portrait of George Washington, dignified and calm, based on the sculpture by Jean-Antoine Houdon. His expression reflects steadiness and resolve, qualities Americans often associate with the nation's first president. The word liberty arches above his head, while the phrase "In God We Trust" appears to the left. The date 1967 sits quietly at the bottom, marking the coin's place in history. Turn the coin over, and the powerful image of the eagle spreads across the reverse. The eagle, wings outstretched, stands on a bundle of arrows with olive branches below, symbolizing both strength and peace. United States of America curves across the top, with $quarter clearly stating the denomination. The motto E Pluribus Unum sits just above the eagle, a reminder of unity drawn from diversity. This design, though familiar, carries deep symbolic meaning that resonates even decades later. The metal composition of the 1967 quarter is another important part of its story. Unlike older quarters that were made of 90% silver, this coin consists of an outer layer of copper and nickel bonded to a pure copper core. This change was revolutionary at the time. It allowed the mint to continue producing durable coins without relying on precious metals that were becoming too valuable for everyday use. For collectors, this makes the 1967 quarter a marker of a new era rather than a relic of the old Silver Age. Millions upon millions of these quarters were produced. Because of this high mintage, the coin is not considered rare in the traditional sense. You can still find examples in circulation, tucked away in old jars, drawers, and inherited collections. Yet, value in the coin world is not determined by rarity alone. Condition plays a massive role, and this is where the 1967 Washington quarter begins to stand out. A heavily worn example, one that has passed through countless hands, may only show faint details. Washington's hair might blend into the background, and the eagle's feathers may appear smooth. These coins tell a story of everyday use, of bus fares paid, vending machines fed, and cash registers ringing. While such coins are rich in history, their collector value is modest. However, when you come across a 1967 quarter that has been carefully preserved, the story changes dramatically. Coins that were pulled from circulation early, stored safely, or never used at all can display sharp details, bold lettering, and an attractive surface. The original mint luster, a soft glow that dances across the metal when tilted in the light, is especially desirable. Collectors look for clean fields, minimal marks, and strong strikes, all of which can elevate the coin far above its face value. Another layer of interest comes from special mint sets produced during this era. Since proof coins were temporarily discontinued, the mint issued special sets with higher quality strikes meant for collectors. Quarters from these sets often have superior detail and finish compared to regular circulation coins. While they are not proofs in the traditional sense, they occupy a unique niche and are highly sought after by enthusiasts who appreciate subtle differences in craftsmanship. Errors and anomalies can also add excitement to the hunt for a 1967 Washington quarter. Off-center strikes, double details, or unusual planchet issues can turn an otherwise common coin into something truly special. These errors are the result of small mistakes during the minting process, and each one is unique. For collectors, discovering such an error feels like uncovering a hidden secret, a tiny flaw that transforms the coin into a one-of-a-kind artifact. The popularity of Washington quarters ensures a steady demand in the coin market. Collectors working on date sets, type sets, or Cladara collections all need a 1967 example. This consistent interest helps maintain the coin's value, especially in higher grades. Even new collectors often start with Washington quarters because they are accessible, affordable, and rich in history. Beyond numbers and grades, there is something deeply satisfying about holding a coin like this. The 1967 Washington quarter connects you to a pivotal time in American history. It was present during moon race ambitions, cultural revolutions, and social change. It passed through the hands of people living ordinary lives during extraordinary times. Each scratch or mark is a whisper from the past, a reminder that money is more than metal. It is a witness to history. If you are checking your change today, don't be too quick to dismiss a quarter dated 1967. Take a closer look. Notice the absence of a mint mark. Study the details. Feel the weight. You might be holding a piece that represents an important shift in American coinage, a moment when tradition met necessity and adapted to a changing world. Collectors often say that value is not only about price, but about story, condition, and connection. The 1967 no-mint mark Washington quarter dollar offers all three. It stands as a symbol of transition, resilience, and everyday American life. Whether you are a seasoned numismatist or someone just beginning to explore the world of coins, this quarter invites curiosity and appreciation. As we reach the end of this journey, remember that the true thrill lies in discovery. Coins like this remind us that history can be found in the smallest places, even in the loose change we carry without a second thought. And when properly preserved and appreciated, the 1967 no-mint mark Washington quarter dollar can reach a value of $14. Imagine reaching into your pocket, pulling out a simple quarter, and unknowingly holding a small piece of American history that has traveled through decades of everyday life. Today, we are diving deep into one of the most fascinating modern-era coins ever produced by the United States of America, the 1973 no-mint mark Washington quarter dollar. This is not just spare change. This is a coin with a story, a legacy, and a hidden value that continues to excite collectors and everyday people alike. The Washington quarter is one of the most recognizable coins in American circulation. Introduced in 1932 to honor the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth, this coin quickly became a symbol of trust, stability, and national pride. By the time 1973 arrived, the United States was undergoing massive cultural and economic change. The Vietnam War was coming to an end, inflation was rising, and Americans were adjusting to a new era. Right in the middle of all this change, millions of Washington quarters were being struck and released into circulation, quietly carrying the spirit of the time. The 1973 no-mint mark Washington quarter was produced at the Philadelphia Mint. Coins struck at Philadelphia traditionally carried no mint mark during this era, making the absence of a letter beneath the eagle on the reverse a key identifying feature. At first glance, this quarter looks ordinary. The familiar profile of George Washington faces left on the obverse, with the word Liberty proudly displayed above his head. The motto I in God We Trust appears to the left, while the date 1973 rests firmly below. On the reverse side, the majestic eagle with outstretched wings stands at the center, clutching a bundle of arrows that symbolize strength and readiness. Olive branches beneath the eagle represent peace, a balance that has long been part of American symbolism. United States of America curves along the top edge, while the denomination quarter dollar sits at the bottom. It is a classic design that Americans had already trusted for generations. What makes the 1973 no-mint mark quarter especially interesting is not its appearance alone, but its place in history. By 1973, the United States had fully transitioned away from silver quarters. These coins were struck in a copper-nickel clad composition, with an outer layer of copper-nickel bonded to a pure copper core. This change was part of a broader shift to reduce costs and preserve precious metals, but it also marked the beginning of a new era in American coinage. Millions upon millions of these quarters were minted, and for years they passed through hands unnoticed. They jingled in pockets, paid for coffee, fed parking meters, and disappeared into couch cushions. Most people never gave them a second thought. Yet within this massive production run, certain examples stood out due to their condition, strike quality, and rarity in pristine states. Collectors know that condition is everything. A heavily worn quarter that has seen decades of circulation holds mainly face value. But a 1973 no-mint mark Washington quarter that has survived in exceptional condition tells a very different story. Coins that avoided circulation, preserved carefully, or struck with unusually sharp details can become highly desirable. These coins often display full luster, crisp lettering, and strong details in Washington's hair and the eagle's feathers. Another factor that fuels interest in this coin is the possibility of errors and anomalies. Throughout history, minting errors have captured the imagination of collectors. Off-center strikes, doubled dies, weak strikes, or planchet errors can dramatically increase a coin's appeal. While errors are rare, they do exist, and when discovered on a 1973 no-mint mark quarter, they can elevate a common coin into something extraordinary. The early 1970s were not known for the highest minting quality. During this period, the U.S. Mint focused heavily on quantity to meet the demands of circulation. As a result, truly flawless examples from 1973 are surprisingly difficult to find. Coins with mirror-like surfaces, minimal contact marks, and strong strikes stand out in a sea of average pieces. For collectors, owning a top-grade example of this quarter is about more than money. It is about preservation, history, and the thrill of discovery. Each coin represents a snapshot of American life in 1973, a year filled with change, uncertainty, and resilience. Holding such a coin connects you directly to that moment in time. Many people wonder how a coin that was once worth just 25 cents could become so valuable. The answer lies in rarity at the highest levels of preservation. While millions were minted, only a tiny fraction remain in near-perfect or superb condition today. These coins are often graded and certified by professional grading services, which evaluate factors such as surface quality, luster, strike, and overall eye appeal. When a 1973 no-mint mark Washington quarter achieves an exceptionally high grade, it enters a completely different category. At this level, the coin is no longer just currency. It becomes a collectible artifact, sought after by serious numismatists who are willing to pay a premium for the best of the best. Stories continue to surface of collectors discovering remarkable quarters in old collections, forgotten rolls, or inherited coin jars. These discoveries remind us that valuable coins are not always locked away in vaults. Sometimes, they are hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone with curiosity and knowledge to recognize their importance. The fascination with the Washington quarter also lies in its familiarity. Almost everyone has held one at some point. That familiarity makes the idea of hidden value even more exciting. It sparks the imagination and encourages people to look more closely at the coins they already have. As interest in coin collecting grows worldwide, American coins like the 1973 no-mint mark Washington quarter continue to attract attention beyond U.S. borders. Collectors from around the globe appreciate the craftsmanship, history, and symbolism embedded in these coins. They represent not only monetary value but also cultural heritage. If you ever come across a 1973 quarter with no mint mark, take a moment to examine it carefully. Look at the details, the shine, and the overall condition. While most examples will be ordinary, a select few hold extraordinary potential. That is the magic of coin collecting. It turns everyday objects into treasures and transforms curiosity into passion. In the end, the story of the 1973 no-mint mark Washington quarter is a reminder that value is not always obvious at first glance. History, rarity, and preservation can elevate even the most familiar items into something remarkable. This unassuming quarter carries decades of stories, countless journeys, and a legacy that continues to grow with time. And for those exceptional examples that stand at the very top of the collecting world, the value can reach an astonishing $47,883. In the world of American coin collecting, sometimes the most ordinary-looking coins carry stories that are far richer than their face value. One such coin is the United States of America 1980 D-mint mark Washington quarter dollar. At first glance, it may appear like a common pocket change coin, something you might casually spend without a second thought. But when you slow down and truly explore its background, design, history, and collector interest, this quarter begins to reveal a fascinating journey through American heritage, minting technology, and numismatic passion. The Washington quarter dollar holds a special place in U.S. coinage history. Originally introduced in 1932 to honor the 200th birthday of George Washington, the first President of the United States, the coin was meant to celebrate leadership, independence, and national pride. By the time 1980 arrived, the Washington quarter was already deeply woven into everyday American life. Millions of people handled it daily, yet few truly stopped to appreciate the craftsmanship and historical significance pressed into its metal surface. The 1980 D Mint Mark quarter was struck at the Denver Mint, one of the most important coin production facilities in the United States. The small letter D on the coin tells a quiet but important story. It represents Denver, Colorado, a mint that has played a crucial role in producing circulating coinage for decades. During 1980, the Denver Mint was operating at full speed, supplying coins to meet the demands of a growing economy and a nation that relied heavily on cash transactions. This particular year sits at an interesting point in American history. The United States was experiencing economic changes, inflation concerns, and shifts in manufacturing technology. Coin production was no exception. By 1980, quarters were no longer made of silver, as earlier Washington quarters once were. Instead, they were struck using a copper core sandwiched between two layers of copper-nickel alloy. This change gave the coin durability and a distinctive look, with a solid silver-gray appearance on the surface and a copper edge visible when viewed from the side. The obverse of the 1980 D Washington quarter features the familiar left-facing portrait of George Washington. Designed by sculptor John Flanagan, this portrait is dignified and calm, capturing Washington's strength and humility. His hair is tied back, his expression serious yet composed, reflecting the ideals of leadership and responsibility. Around the portrait, the inscriptions include the word liberty, the phrase "In God We Trust," and the date 1980. Each of these elements contributes to the coin's identity and purpose as both currency and symbol. On the reverse side, the iconic bald eagle stands proudly with outstretched wings. The eagle clutches a bundle of arrows, representing strength and readiness to defend freedom, while olive branches below symbolize peace. Above the eagle is the phrase United States of America, and beneath it the denomination $quarter. This reverse design remained largely unchanged for many years and became one of the most recognizable images in American coinage. What makes the 1980 D quarter especially interesting to collectors is not just its design, but its condition. While millions were produced, only a smaller number remain today in exceptionally well-preserved states. Coins that avoided heavy circulation, scratches, and were often attract attention from collectors who appreciate sharp details, original luster, and clean surfaces. Even small differences in condition can dramatically change how a coin is viewed within the numismatic community. Another fascinating aspect of this quarter lies in the minting process itself. During this era, coins were struck using high-speed presses, and minor variations could occur. Collectors often examine quarters for striking quality, clarity of details, and overall eye appeal. A strong strike with clearly defined features on Washington's hair and the eagle's feathers can make a noticeable difference. These details are what separate an ordinary circulated coin from one that stands out in a collection. The 1980 D Washington quarter also reflects a time when people were not yet actively searching their change for valuable modern coins. Coin collecting was popular, but the idea that recent circulation coins could become collectible was still developing. As a result, many coins were spent freely, dropped, scratched, and worn down through everyday use. This makes higher quality examples more desirable today, as they represent a smaller surviving population. Collectors are often drawn to this coin because it represents a bridge between the past and the present. It carries the classic Washington quarter design that dates back to the early 20th century, yet it was produced during a modern era of mass production. This blend of tradition and modernity gives the 1980 D quarter a unique charm that appeals to both beginner collectors and seasoned numismatists. For new collectors, this coin can be an exciting starting point. It teaches important lessons about mint marks, coin composition, grading, and historical context. It encourages people to look more closely at the coins they encounter every day and to appreciate the stories hidden within them. For experienced collectors, the challenge lies in finding examples with superior condition and eye appeal, making the hunt just as thrilling as the reward. The Washington Quarter series as a whole has seen many changes over the decades, including special reverse designs and commemorative programs. Yet the standard Eagle reverse quarters from years like 1980 remain a reminder of consistency and continuity in American coinage. They represent stability in design and purpose, even as the nation itself continued to evolve. When discussing coin value, it is important to remember that condition, demand, and collector interest all play a role. While many 1980 D quarters are common in worn condition, examples that have been carefully preserved can stand apart. Collectors appreciate originality, shine, and the absence of damage. These qualities transform a simple quarter into a collectible piece of American history. Beyond monetary considerations, this coin also carries sentimental and educational value. It reminds us of a time when physical money played a central role in daily life. It connects generations, from those who used these quarters in the 1980s to younger collectors discovering them decades later. Each coin is a small time capsule, carrying the marks of its era and the hands it passed through. As you hold or view a 1980 D Mint Mark Washington quarter dollar, take a moment to reflect on its journey. From the minting presses in Denver to wallets, pockets, and collections around the world, this coin has traveled far. It has witnessed countless transactions and quiet moments of exchange, all while preserving the image of America's first president and the ideals he stood for. In the end, the true appeal of this coin lies not only in what it is worth, but in what it represents. It is a piece of American history, a symbol of continuity, and a reminder that even the most familiar objects can hold hidden stories and unexpected value. The value of the United States of America 1980 D Mint Mark Washington quarter dollar is $59.